In the love story between me and Ian, it's like a fairy tale coming to life. After graduating from college, I, a strong-willed individual, turned down the job arranged by my parents and entered a company I had admired for a long time, starting from the bottom. Ian is my supervisor. In a workplace full of talented individuals, supervisors usually follow the principle of teaching apprentices to starve the master. They tend to be reserved with their subordinates. However, Ian always expresses admiration for my determination, freely imparts his experience to me, and often takes me to meet clients. Our relationship heated up during a meeting with Party A's father when I encountered my ex-boyfriend Caleb. My breakup with Caleb wasn't graceful because he, in pursuit of his own future, got involved with a wealthy woman named Gabriella. When we split, Caleb even wanted to take back the gifts he bought for me. Fortunately, with online payments now, I'm not one to be easily taken advantage of. After spending 2 nights going through my phone with my best friend, we meticulously listed all the expenses during my time with Caleb. In the end, Caleb reluctantly transferred $20,000 after feeling the pinch. However, Gabriella ultimately disappointed Caleb's deep affection. 2 months into their relationship, Gabriella went abroad. So, Caleb remembered me again. In an effort to win me back, he blocked my dormitory door every day. However, as I was busy with my internship and had rented a house with my best friend, we no longer lived in the dormitory. After the plan was confirmed, Party A's father invited Ian and me to have dinner at his vineyard. After a few rounds of drinks, my contact lenses surprisingly fell out. Ian, being a gentleman, handed me his glasses and said, "Use mine." I graciously took the glasses, and Caleb's expression turned dark. Party A's father, slightly intoxicated, joked, "Are you two dating on the company's dime?" Haha. Ian and I exchanged a smile, knowing the other had had a bit too much to drink, and we didn't offer much explanation. Because Ian had been drinking, he called for a car to take me home. Feeling that he had consumed quite a bit, and given that our business dinner had gone late, I was concerned about disturbing my best friend's rest, so occasionally, I would stay over at Ian's place. So, I had the driver take us to his residential area. Upon arrival, Ian leaned on me and pointed me in a direction. Following his gaze, I saw Caleb. I guessed that after Ian and I left, Caleb held a car and had been trailing us. Seeing us enter this residential area, he followed suit. This was an old neighborhood, and security wasn't that tight. I ignored Caleb, half dragging, half carrying Ian, and entered the building. After entering the house, Ian jokingly asked me, "Ex-boyfriend?" I nodded helplessly. Ian continued, "A good ex should be treated like they're dead. Look at me, how am I doing?" With that, Ian leaned in for a kiss. It had been a long time since I had been intimate with a man, and coupled with a bit of alcohol, I found myself half pushing, half accepting as Ian and I lay down together. The next morning, as Ian looked at my shy expression, he said, "I've liked you for a long time, and I'll take responsibility for you." Then, he took leave from work, bought some things, drove 4 hours, and came to my home. My parents really liked the tall and slim Ian. Hearing that he was my supervisor, they looked at him with newfound respect. During the meal, Ian took out his bank card and said to my parents, "Uncle, Auntie, I've liked Ning for a long time. I hope you agree to us being together." My parents were initially surprised, and then my dad asked Ian, "For such a big thing like marriage, shouldn't you discuss it with your family?" Ian replied firmly, "I'm on my own, my parents passed away a long time ago." Mom felt sorry for Ian, and Dad expressed that as long as I was willing, the house and the car would be covered by our family. Ian calmly said, "This card contains all my savings, it's the dowry for Ning. From now on, I belong to Ning." Then, he playfully said to me, "Ning, from now on, I'll be living off your fortune." My parents, seeing Ian's demeanor, burst into laughter. Soon, our wedding with Ian was scheduled. Considering that Ian might have relatives even though he didn't have parents, my parents suggested inviting them. However, Ian declined, saying, "After my parents passed away, I didn't interact much with relatives. Bringing them to the wedding would mean they have to spend money, which isn't easy for them. Let's not notify them." My parents thought Ian was considerate, so they didn't insist. After marriage, Ian treated me like a princess. Every day, I would wake up to warm meals. Even when he was on a business trip, he would arrange my meals in advance. Whenever he returned from a business trip, he always brought me gifts. However, over time, I noticed a monthly transfer of 5,000 yuan in Ian's transaction records. I confided in my best friend about this, and she said, "Could it be that Ian is secretly spoiling you?" Why not create a secondary account and test him out? My friend's words made me curious. So, I bought a new SIM card, created a WeChat account, and during one of his business trips, I decided to test Ian. People are most likely to reveal their true feelings in the late hours of the night. So, after Ian and I exchanged goodnight wishes, I waited for another hour. Around 11:30 at night, I added Ian with my secondary account. To my surprise, Ian accepted my friend request in less than a minute, making me a bit nervous. Collecting myself, I sent a message, "Hello, I'm a salesperson. Is there anything you need?" Ian replied, "Nothing." I said, "It's so late, why haven't you gone to bed? Are you single?" Ian said, "My wife is on a business trip, and I'm not used to her absence. I have trouble sleeping." I felt a sense of satisfaction. I said, "Well, you could find a lover. Otherwise, the night is long, and it can be quite lonely." As I sent out that message, my heart pounded, torn between wanting to see Ian's response and fearing the possibility of him betraying our relationship. Ian replied, "I love my wife very much, and I would never do anything to betray her." My anxious heart found relief, and then I sent another message to Ian, "I feel like you might have a story to tell. Since I'm a stranger, why not share it with me?" The phone displayed Ian typing and deleting, and finally, he sent a string of text, "There's something I don't know how to tell my wife. I come from a mountainous area. My parents are simple farmers, living their whole lives facing the yellow soil. The year I graduated from college, I brought my ex-girlfriend home. When she saw my adobe house, and my parents who were already bent from hard work, she broke up with me. She said to me, 'I thought being with you, with your good grades and potential, would lead to a bright future. But your family is too poor. If I marry you, I'll have to endure hardship.' My parents overheard these words, and they felt they were holding me back, causing me difficulty in finding a partner. So, they instructed me, 'In the future, if anyone asks, just say you're an orphan. Don't worry about us. We only want you to live well. Besides, we've lived in the mountains all our lives, and we're used to this life. It's not bad.' I cried and refused, but my parents knelt down before me. Parents kneeling to their son was a significant gesture, and I felt compelled to agree against my will. My wife treated me well, but my parents couldn't attend our wedding. Despite my in-laws repeatedly emphasizing that I could invite relatives since I had no parents, my attempts to involve my parents were rejected. Feeling a tremor in my heart, I never expected a TV drama plot to unfold in my own life. So, I replied to Ian, "Why don't you tell your wife? Maybe she'll accept your parents?" Ian said, "My wife is beautiful and kind. If I tell her the truth, she'll surely accept my parents. But I'm afraid she won't forgive my initial deception." My heart trembled, and I didn't respond to Ian's message. I remember that when we got married, Ian shared some of his electronic documents with me. So, I opened the computer, browsed through Ian's information, and found the address of Ian's hometown on a registration form. After finishing some work, I took leave from my supervisor and rushed to Ian's hometown. Honestly, I didn't have much confidence that I would find Ian's parents. After all, I had never met them. But as soon as I entered the small mountain village where Ian was born, enthusiastic villagers greeted me, saying, "This is Ian's wife, even more beautiful in person than in the photos." One villager led me to Ian's home. Upon entering, Ian's parents looked surprised when they saw me and glanced behind me. Looking at the two slim, weathered, and dark-skinned elderly people, I teared up and said, "Mom, Dad, Ian is busy with work and couldn't come, so I came alone." My mother-in-law also wiped away a tear and warmly welcomed me into the house. She kept calling out to Ian's father, "Old man, our daughter-in-law is back. Go kill a chicken." Inside the house, as I looked around, despite the outdated furniture, it was neat and tidy. There were even wedding photos of Ian and me hanging on the walls. My mother-in-law poured me a glass of water and said, "And Ning, our house is too run down. Did Ian tell you everything about us?" I sat down with my mother-in-law and said, "Mom, Ian didn't tell me about your situation. I found out through my own probing. If I hadn't tested him, I wouldn't have known that your days were so tough. Ian keeping these things from me wasn't to make me anxious or to be gossiped about." My mother-in-law wiped away tears and said, "It's not Ian's fault. It's all our fault, we burdened him." I playfully pulled my mother-in-law closer and said, "Then you and Dad cooperate with me. I want to give Ian a little punishment." Smiling, my mother-in-law nodded and said, "Okay, Mom will listen to you." I stayed overnight at Ian's house, and the next day, my in-laws and I packed up and headed back. I didn't inform Ian that I had returned. After settling my in-laws' luggage, I took them to buy new clothes and helped them take a shower. After finishing everything, I brought my parents over, explained the situation, and my mother-in-law prepared a table full of hometown dishes. When Ian returned, we all hid. Peeking through the door crack, I saw Ian's shoulders shaking when he caught the scent of the hometown dishes. As I led my parents and in-laws out of the bedroom, Ian, seeing his parents, burst into tears. My in-laws also wiped away tears. Holding back my own tears, I said, "On this joyous day, let's not cry. Hurry up and eat, everything is getting cold." We spent a full 3 hours at the dinner table. When we went to bed that night, Ian hugged me and said, "Wife, you're amazing. How did you find out about my parents?" I smiled and said, "I'm just that micro-business big sister who listens to your heartfelt confessions." Ian held me tightly. The next day, my in-laws wanted to leave and return to the countryside. Ian and I desperately tried to persuade them to stay, but they were afraid of disturbing our rest and insisted on going back to their hometown. After discussing with Ian, we decided to use all our savings to buy a ground floor house with a garden in our neighborhood for my in-laws. So, my in-laws decided to stay. They never interfered in Ian's and my affairs. After work, we all enjoyed warm meals together. When my parents found out, they said I did the right thing. Now, my parents have also retired and settled in our city. I believe this is what happiness looks like, a family that stays together forever.